The day of the wedding arrived far too quickly. The car Margaret had promised arrived promptly at 3 o'clock, a sleek black sedan with tinted windows, the kind of car I'd never have the opportunity to own, even if I managed to save up every penny for the next 10 years. I stood outside my house, gripping my jacket collar tighter around my neck as if trying to ward off some invisible chill. The fall air smelled of crisp leaves and wet earth, a stark contrast to the sterile, over-perfumed atmosphere I knew I would find at the venue. I hadn't prepared for this. Not really. I spent the last few weeks telling myself I wouldn't go, that I'd let it slide, that Emily was right. She and Jake had their lives now, and I was nothing but a relic from their past, a reminder of what they wanted to leave behind. But then Margaret had called, and something in her voice had made the words I'd once so firmly accepted, not wanted, feel wrong. When the car pulled up, the driver opened the door and nodded, as if he'd known me for years. I didn't offer any small talk, instead just slipped into the back seat and watched the world move past me. I wasn't nervous. At least, I told myself I wasn't. I was just going to sit there, be quiet, watch the whole thing from the periphery, and then leave. No scene, no drama. I'd keep my head down and respect their day. If only I could believe my own thoughts. The drive was short, but the closer we got to the venue, the tighter the knot in my stomach became. The streets grew more manicured, the buildings taller, the sidewalks crowded with well-dressed people who looked like they belonged there. When the driver finally pulled up to the entrance of the grand hall, I could already hear the distant hum of voices, the clink of glasses, the subtle strains of an orchestra rehearsing. Everything about it felt too polished, too refined. Not my world. Margaret was waiting by the door, looking as perfect as I remembered her from that dinner 6 months ago. She was dressed in a sleek midnight blue gown that shimmered like a starless sky, her hair swept up in a way that made her look like she had stepped out of some magazine cover. She greeted me with a small smile, her eyes a mix of understanding and something more, maybe pity. "Come on, Richard," she said, taking my arm as if it were a natural thing to do. "Let's get you inside." We walked in together, and I felt out of place immediately. The room was massive, with walls lined in white roses and chandeliers that hung like ice sculptures from the ceiling. Long tables were set up on either side, each covered with lace and fine china. Waiters in tuxedos moved about, offering drinks and hors d'oeuvres to the guests, who all seemed to know each other, laughing in a language I couldn't understand. The smell of fresh flowers and expensive perfume was overwhelming, and I fought the urge to cough. "Let's go over here," Margaret said, steering me to the side, out of the main flow of things. "The groom's side is that way." She pointed toward a cluster of chairs arranged around an altar where a priest stood, the ceremony soon to begin. I didn't look for Emily. I didn't expect to see her yet. But I could feel the tension rise in me, a quiet hum of discomfort that I couldn't shake off. I didn't belong here. When we sat down, Margaret excused herself to talk to a few people. I was left alone, watching as the guests filtered in, each one more polished, more perfect than the last. The women wore dresses that were somehow both modest and revealing at the same time, their jewellery sparkling like the stars had come down to mingle. The men were no different. They had the air of power and confidence, their suits tailored so perfectly that they looked like something you'd see in a magazine. Not one of them would ever wear a grease-stained shirt or get their hands dirty under the hood of a car. I could already feel the whispers, the sideways glances. I wasn't imagining it. These people didn't belong to my world, and I certainly didn't belong to theirs. They weren't looking at me with contempt. No, it was something worse. They were looking at me with pity, the kind of pity you'd feel for someone who hadn't quite figured out they were out of place. I sat there, still as stone, doing my best to avoid any interaction with the crowd. The minutes seemed to stretch on forever. It wasn't long before the wedding march began, a low and stately tune that turned the whole room's attention toward the back of the hall. My gaze shifted instinctively despite my attempt not to care. I saw Emily then, standing at the doorway, her arm linked with Jake's father's. She looked stunning, more beautiful than I'd ever seen her. Her white dress sparkled, the kind of dress I'd only seen in magazines, the kind that cost more than I made in a year. It was the dress of a woman who had arrived, the dress of a woman who didn't need to think about what came before, the dress of a woman who was moving on. And Jake. He was standing at the altar, waiting for her, the look on his face one of pure admiration. I didn't know the guy well. Emily had kept him at arm's length when it came to family, and I never questioned it. But I could see in his eyes that he was ready for this moment, ready for her to be his. When they reached the altar, I stood, as did most of the crowd. The priest began the ceremony, speaking in slow, measured tones that barely registered with me. The whole thing felt like a dream I was watching from the outside. I didn't know why I was here. I didn't know why I had agreed to show up. Was it to show Emily that I could still be part of her life, even if she didn't want me there? Was it to remind myself that I still had some kind of place in the world, even if it wasn't in the life she had built for herself? I didn't have the answer. All I knew was that I felt like a shadow at this event, a relic of a past she was determined to bury. The vows came next. Jake spoke first, his voice steady as he promised to love Emily, to cherish her, to stand by her. And Emily, when it was her turn, spoke with such certainty, such grace. She was the picture of the woman I had raised, the one who had fought her way out of the life we had, out of the world I had been stuck in. "I do," she said, her eyes never leaving Jake's face. It was the simplest of words, but they were final. I felt a pang in my chest. There it was, what I had been avoiding all these years. My daughter had moved on, and in her eyes, I was just a shadow now, something she had to leave behind to move forward. The rest of the ceremony passed in a blur, and before I knew it, they were kissing, and the crowd erupted into applause. I sat there, clapping along, even though I wasn't sure what I was celebrating. As the newlyweds walked down the aisle, hand in hand, my heart twisted. Emily didn't look my way. Jake didn't either. I wasn't part of their story anymore, and maybe that was okay. Maybe it was for the best. But even as I told myself that, there was a small, stubborn part of me that didn't want to believe it. Margaret returned soon after the ceremony, smiling faintly as she offered her congratulations. "You were quiet," she said, as if it were some small sin. "I didn't belong here," I muttered, my voice thick with the weight of everything I hadn't said. "You belong in your own way, Richard," she replied softly. But sometimes, belonging doesn't mean being noticed. I didn't have a response to that. The reception went on, and I stayed in the background, blending in with the furniture as I watched my daughter's life unfold before me. I wasn't sure why I had come, but now that I was here, I wasn't sure I wanted to leave. Not yet. Not until I figured out what, if anything, I was supposed to do next. The ceremony took place at the Riverside Hotel, all glass and chrome overlooking the water. I walked in with Margaret on my arm, wearing the one good suit I owned. Navy blue, pressed sharp, smelling faintly of the dry cleaner's chemicals. Emily stood at the front in her white dress, face glowing. She was always the pretty one, took after her mother. My wife Sarah would have been proud to see her like this, if she'd lived to see it. Cancer took her when Emily was 16. Jake was 19. Maybe that's when things started going wrong. Emily's eyes found mine as we walked down the aisle. Her smile froze, cracked. I saw her grip tighten on Jake's arm where he stood at her side, both of them positioned to walk her down together, since neither wanted me to do it. Margaret and I took our seats in the third row. The groom, Michael Chen, stood at the altar looking nervous. Good-looking kid, probably decent enough. Not that it mattered what I thought. The ceremony proceeded. Emily's voice shook when she said her vows. Her eyes kept drifting to where I sat, rigid and still. I didn't smile, didn't frown, just watched. At the reception, I stuck close to Margaret. We made polite conversation with the groom's relatives, people who had no idea who I was or why I mattered. Emily and Michael worked the room, greeting guests, accepting congratulations. I waited. Around 8 o'clock, Emily finally approached. Her face was flushed, whether from champagne or anger I couldn't tell. Jake flanked her left side, his wife Amanda on his right. They'd formed a little army to confront me. "Dad," Emily's voice was tight, "I need to speak with you, outside." I stood up slowly, feeling Margaret's hand briefly touch my arm in support. "Lead the way." We walked out to a terrace overlooking the gardens. The sun was setting, painting everything in shades of orange and red. Emily whirled on me the moment the door closed. "How dare you show up here? I told you not to come." "You suggested I not come," I corrected. "That's different from telling me I'm not welcome." "You embarrassed me in front of everyone." Jake stepped forward. "You need to leave, Dad. Now, before you cause more problems." I looked at my son, 27 years old, wearing a suit that cost more than I made in a month. He worked for some tech startup, made good money, married a woman whose father owned half the commercial real estate downtown. He'd done well for himself, better than I ever did. "Problems?" I kept my voice level. "I've been sitting quietly, minding my business. I haven't said a word to anyone except Margaret and her family." "That's the point." Emily's voice rose. "Margaret thinks you're my guest now. She thinks we're one big, happy family. Do you have any idea how awkward that makes things?" "Why would that be awkward, Emily? Unless you told her something different about me." Her face flushed deeper. "I told her the truth, that you weren't able to attend. You told her I was ill. Same difference." "No," I said quietly. "It's not." Amanda, Jake's wife, spoke up for the first time. "Mr. Dunn, perhaps it would be best if you respected Emily's wishes. This is her special day." I turned to look at her. Blonde, polished, perfect. She'd never worked a real job in her life, went from her father's house to Jake's condo without ever worrying about paying rent or buying groceries. "And what about my wishes, Amanda? Did anyone consider those when they decided I wasn't good enough to watch my daughter get married?" "That's not fair," Jake said. "This isn't about you." "No." I looked at him. "Then what's it about?" Emily stepped closer. "It's about the fact that you don't fit into our lives anymore, Dad. You don't understand the world we're in now, the people we know. You'd just make things difficult." The words hung in the air between us. Finally, the truth, plain and simple. "I see." I nodded slowly. "So this is about being ashamed of me." "Don't twist this around," Emily snapped. "You're the one who chose to stay in that greasy shop instead of trying to build something better. You could have tried. For us. For Mum's memory." That crossed a line. I felt something cold settle in my chest. "Your mother loved that shop. I built it from nothing, provided for you both. Put you through school. Made sure you had everything you needed." "Everything we needed?" Jake laughed harshly. "Dad, we lived in that tiny house while all our friends had pools and game rooms. We drove used cars while they got new ones. Amanda's parents think I grew up poor." "You grew up loved," I said. "There's a difference. Not one that matters anymore." Emily's voice was flat now. "Look, we're done with this conversation. I want you to leave, right now." "Emily." "I mean it, Dad. Get out. You're not welcome here." She turned to walk back inside. I called after her. "And if I don't leave?" She stopped. Turned back. In her eyes, I saw something I'd never seen before directed at me. Contempt. Then I'll have security escort you out. Your choice. The door closed behind them. I stood alone on the terrace as the last light faded from the sky. I didn't leave. Not yet. I walked back inside, found Margaret, made my excuses, told her I needed some air, would call a cab. She looked concerned, but didn't push. Instead of leaving, I went to the hotel bar. Ordered a whiskey, neat. Sat in the corner where I could see the reception hall entrance but wouldn't be easily spotted. Around 10 o'clock I saw them, Emily and Michael laughing with friends, Jake and Amanda dancing, my children celebrating their new lives I wasn't part of. The bartender, a woman in her 40s with kind eyes, refilled my glass without asking. Rough night? My daughter's wedding. She glanced toward the reception hall. Should be a happy occasion. Should be. I took a sip. Tell me something. If your kids told you not to come to their wedding, what would you do? She considered this, wiping down the bar. Depends. Why wouldn't they want me there? Because I embarrass them. Because I'm not successful enough, not polished enough. Then I'd remind them who paid for their first car, their college tuition, who sat up with them when they were sick. She met my eyes. But that's just me. I smiled, humorless. I did all that. Doesn't seem to matter now. Give it time. Kids sometimes need to grow up before they appreciate what they had. I'm 52 years old, I said. How much time do I have left to wait? She didn't have an answer for that. I left the hotel around 11, called a cab, went home. The house felt emptier than usual. 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, kitchen with linoleum floors Sarah had picked out 20 years ago. It wasn't much, but it was mine. Paid off. No mortgage, no debt. I sat at the kitchen table with the wedding invitation, turned it over in my hands. Emily's note stared back at me. You'll understand. I understood perfectly, and I was done understanding. Monday morning, I opened the shop at 7 like always. We had 3 jobs scheduled, an oil change, brake replacement, transmission work. Basic stuff. My mechanic, Tony, arrived at 7:30. How was the wedding, boss? Interesting. He knew better than to push. We worked in companionable silence until the phone rang around 9. I wiped my hands on a rag, answered. Dunn's Auto Repair. Dad? It's Jake. I waited. Look, about Saturday, Emily's upset. She thinks you showed up just to spite her. Did she now? Did you? No, Jake. I showed up because I wanted to see my daughter get married. Apparently that was too much to ask. He sighed. You made things awkward with Margaret. She's been asking questions. What kind of questions? About why we told her you were sick. About our relationship. It's created tension with Michael's family. That's unfortunate. Dad, come on. Can't you just apologize to Emily? Make this right? I set down the rag carefully. What exactly should I apologize for? Attending a wedding? Sitting quietly in a church? For not respecting her wishes? Her wishes, I repeated. Did she respect mine when she told me not to come? Did you respect them when you backed her up? Silence on the other end. I raised you both, I continued. Your mother and I sacrificed everything to give you opportunities. And this is how you repay that? By cutting me out? It's not like that. Then what's it like, Jake? Explain it to me. You don't get it, Dad. The world we're in now, it's different. People judge you based on appearances, on status, and you don't care about any of that. You're right. I don't. That's the problem. I laughed, low and bitter. The problem is that I worked hard, lived honestly, and raised my kids to believe that mattered. And now you're telling me it doesn't. That I should have cared more about impressing strangers than about being there for my family. That's not what I'm saying. Yes, it is. You're just too much of a coward to admit it. He hung up. I stood there holding the phone, feeling something shift inside me. All these years, I'd accepted their distance, told myself they were busy, building their careers, starting their families, that eventually they'd come back around. But Saturday night on that terrace, I'd seen the truth in Emily's eyes. She was done with me, and Jake was right there with her. Fine. If they wanted to cut ties, I'd let them, but not before they understood exactly what they were throwing away. I spent the next week making calls, quiet inquiries. I'd been in business 30 years, knew people, contractors, suppliers, bankers, lawyers, the kind of people who owed favors or remembered when I'd helped them out of a tight spot. Jake worked for a tech startup called Innovate Tech. They'd just secured a major contract with the city to upgrade infrastructure systems. Good money, big prestige, the kind of deal that could make careers. I called in a favor with Bill Morrison, who sat on the city council. We'd gone to high school together, stayed friendly over the years. Bill, remember that contract Innovate Tech won? Sure, what about it? I need you to look into their background checks, specifically Jake Dunn's references. Your son works there. He does, and I have reason to believe he might have misrepresented some of his qualifications. Richard, that's serious. You sure about this? I'm sure there should be an investigation. What it finds is up to the facts. Bill was quiet for a moment. I'll look into it. Emily was easier. She worked in marketing for a boutique firm that handled high-end clients. Weddings, corporate events, product launches. She'd worked her way up to account manager, made decent money. But her success depended on reputation and client relationships. I knew one of her biggest clients, Patricia Hammond, old money family throwing a charity gala. Big event, lots of publicity. Emily had been planning it for months. Patricia and I had met once at a community fundraiser. She'd been impressed with how I'd organised the volunteer mechanics to fix up cars for low-income families. We'd stayed in touch, occasionally crossed paths at local events. I called her Wednesday afternoon. Patricia, this is Richard Dunn. Richard, how lovely to hear from you. How can I help? I need some information. Do you know my daughter, Emily? Oh, I didn't realise. Yes, she's handling our autumn gala. Wonderful girl, very professional. I'm glad to hear that. Patricia, I hate to ask this, but has Emily mentioned me at all? Talked about her family? Hesitation. She mentioned her mother passed away. I'm so sorry for your loss. Thank you. Did she mention me specifically? She said her father had passed as well. Recently, I sent my condolences. The words hit like a punch. I forced myself to breathe normally. I see. Thank you for telling me, Patricia. Richard, are you all right? I'm fine. One more question. How important is honesty to you in business relationships? It's everything. Why do you ask? Just curious. Thank you for your time. I hung up. Sat there in my office behind the shop, staring at the wall. That made things simpler. Thursday evening, I drove to Amanda's father's office. Richard Hartley, real estate mogul, self-made millionaire, the kind of man who'd built an empire from nothing, like I'd tried to do with my shop. Except he'd succeeded on a bigger scale. His secretary tried to stop me. Mr. Hartley is very busy. Tell him Richard Dunn is here, Jake's father. It's urgent. 5 minutes later, I was sitting in his office. Hartley looked me over with sharp eyes. Mr. Dunn, I've heard about you. I bet you have. Nothing good, I'm guessing. He smiled thinly. My daughter says you're difficult. Jake says you're stubborn. But I do my own research. You've run an honest business for 30 years. No complaints, good reputation. That counts for something. Thank you. So why are you here? Because I need advice from someone who understands families and business. He leaned back. I'm listening. My kids want nothing to do with me. They're ashamed of where I come from, what I do. Saturday was the last straw. I'm done trying to have a relationship with them. That's harsh. That's reality. But before I walk away completely, I need to know something. Do you think they'll ever appreciate what they had? Or will they just keep climbing until they forget where they started? Hartley was quiet for a long moment. You want the truth? Always. People like Jake and Emily, they're climbers. They see success as a ladder, and every rung means leaving something behind. Your shop, your values, you're what they're leaving behind. They won't appreciate it until they fall. And even then, maybe not. So, I should just accept that. I didn't say that. He leaned forward. I said they won't appreciate it until they fall. So the question becomes, are you willing to help them fall? What do you mean? You're smarter than you look, Richard. You didn't come here for advice. You came here to see if I'd stop you. He was right. I met his eyes. And will you? Hartley smiled. Jake's a decent kid, but he's soft. Amanda babies him. Maybe a hard lesson would do him good. As for Emily, I don't know her well enough to judge. But if she's anything like Jake, she could use a wake-up call too. You're giving me permission. I'm telling you I won't interfere. What you do is your business. I stood up. Thank you. Richard, one more thing. When you do whatever you're planning, make sure it's legal. I can't help you if you cross that line. Everything I'm doing is completely legal. Good. He walked me to the door. For what it's worth, I think Sarah would understand. Sometimes the best thing you can do for your kids is let them fail. Bill Morrison called Friday morning. Richard, we've got a problem. Tell me. Jake Dunn inflated his resume. He claimed project management experience he doesn't have, took credit for work done by others. It's not criminal, but it's enough to violate the contract terms. What happens now? City's pulling the contract. Innovate Tech will likely fire him to save face. This is big, Richard. You sure you want this? I'm sure. All right. Decision's being announced Monday. I thanked him and hung up. One down. Next, I called Patricia Hammond. Patricia, I need to tell you something. I'm very much alive. She told you that because she's ashamed of me. Silence. Then, why would she do that? Because in her mind, having a father who runs an auto shop doesn't fit the image she wants to project. That's... Richard, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. I know you didn't. I'm not telling you this to cause problems. I'm telling you because you said honesty matters to you in business. Emily isn't honest. She's talented, but she's willing to lie about fundamental things to protect her image. I appreciate you telling me. What you do with that information is up to you. I hung up and sat back. The pieces were falling into place. By Monday, Jake would lose his job. Patricia would likely fire Emily, or at least start questioning her judgment. Both my children would face the kind of failure they'd never experienced before. Part of me felt sick about it. The father in me wanted to call Bill back, tell Patricia it was a misunderstanding. But that father had been rejected, mocked. This version of me was done being the understanding dad. Saturday afternoon, Jake called. Dad, what did you do? I don't know what you mean. Don't play dumb. The city's pulling our contract. They're citing irregularities in background checks. Bill Morrison's behind it, and you're friends with him. Jake, if there are irregularities in your background check, that's on you, not me. You reported me. You sabotaged my career. I suggested an investigation. If the investigation found something, that's because there was something to find. I'm going to lose my job. Do you understand that? Amanda and I just bought a condo. We have a mortgage. Then I suggest you start looking for new employment. How can you do this? I'm your son. And you're the one who told me I didn't fit into your life, that I was an embarrassment. Did you think there would be no consequences for that? This isn't about consequences. This is about you being vindictive. No, Jake. This is about you learning that actions have repercussions. You can't treat people like trash and expect them to just accept it. You're insane. I'm awake. For the first time in years, I'm seeing clearly. You and Emily used me, took everything I gave you and then threw me away. Well, now you know how that feels. He hung up. 5 minutes later, Emily called. Dad, Patricia Hammond just fired me. Did you tell her that? I told her the truth. Why would you do that? That was none of her business. You could have just said we were estranged, but you went further. You erased me completely. Because it was easier. Do you know how hard it is to explain having a father who works on cars when everyone else's parents are doctors and lawyers and executives? I know exactly how hard it is, Emily. I lived it. Every parent-teacher conference, every school event where I showed up in work clothes because I came straight from the shop. You think I didn't notice the looks, the whispers? Then you should understand why I did what I did. I understand perfectly. You're ashamed of me. And rather than deal with that honestly, you decided it was easier to pretend. Well, congratulations. You made it come true. What does that mean? It means, as of today, I have no children. Don't call me again. Dad. I hung up, blocked both their numbers, sat there feeling nothing. Empty. Like someone had scooped out my insides and left just a shell. Tony knocked on the office door. Boss, you okay? Yeah, just family stuff. Want to talk about it? No, but thank you. He nodded and left. I sat there until the sun went down, thinking about Sarah, wondering if she would approve of what I'd done, wondering if I even cared anymore. 3 weeks passed. The shop kept me busy. Tony handled most of the customer interaction while I focused on the actual repair work. Engines didn't judge. Transmissions didn't lie. There was something pure about mechanical problems. You diagnosed them, fixed them, moved on. I stopped going to the community fundraisers, stopped answering calls from old family friends who'd heard about the drama, let my social life shrink down to just work and home. It was easier that way. Late October, a man walked into the shop. Mid-50s, expensive suit, looked out of place among the oil stains and tool benches. Richard Dunn, that's me. My name is Frank Bishop. I'm a private investigator. May I have a moment of your time? I set down the wrench I'd been holding. What's this about? It's about your children and their spouses. I don't have children. He smiled. That's interesting, because they've been asking about you. Specifically, they've hired me to look into your recent activities. They think you've been sabotaging them. Have I? Not technically. Everything you did was legal. But you definitely pulled some strings. I crossed my arms. Is there a point to this visit? The point is that Jake and Emily are scrambling. Jake lost his job, hasn't found another one yet. Emily lost her biggest client. Her firm is questioning her judgment. They're both drowning, and they know you pushed them into the water. Good. Good? Frank raised an eyebrow. Mr. Dunn, they're your children. They stopped being my children when they told me I was an embarrassment. Fair enough, but here's where it gets interesting. Amanda's father is considering divorcing them financially, cutting off the safety net, and Michael's parents are pressuring him to get an annulment because they don't want to be associated with the drama. I felt something twist in my chest. That wasn't part of the plan. Plans rarely survive contact with reality. You wanted them to face consequences. Well, they're facing them. The question is, how far are you willing to let this go? Why do you care? Frank pulled out a card, set it on my workbench. Because I was hired to investigate you, but what I found was a decent man who got treated like garbage. So I'm giving you a heads up. Your kids are spiraling, they're scared, and they're about to make some very bad decisions. What kind of decisions? Jake's talking about desperate measures to get money. Emily's considering moving across the country to escape the reputation damage. They're not thinking straight. I picked up the card. Why tell me this? professional courtesy, and because I think you're smart enough to know when revenge has gone far enough." He left. I stood there holding his card, feeling the weight of what I'd done. I didn't call Frank back. Didn't reach out to Jake or Emily. Just kept working, kept pushing forward. But his words haunted me. Desperate measures, bad decisions. Early November, Tony came into the office looking worried. "Boss, there's someone here to see you. Says it's important." Margaret Chen stood in the waiting area, looking older than I remembered. Tired. "Richard, thank you for seeing me." "Margaret, what brings you here?" "Can we talk privately?" I led her to the office, offered her a chair. She sat down heavily. "I know what you did, to Jake and Emily. They told you. Michael told me. He's devastated. The wedding was supposed to be a new beginning, and instead everything fell apart. That's not my fault. Isn't it?" She met my eyes. "Richard, I understand being hurt. I understand wanting them to face consequences. But what you've done, it's destroying them, and it's destroying Michael too. Michael's a good kid. He doesn't deserve to be caught in this. No, he doesn't. But he loves Emily." I looked away. She brought this on herself. "Did she?" Margaret leaned forward. "Richard, our children make mistakes. They're selfish and short-sighted and sometimes cruel. But they're still our children. You raised Emily. You know who she is underneath all this. The Emily you knew was terrified of disappointing you. She spent her whole childhood trying to live up to Sarah's memory, trying to be perfect. And when she couldn't maintain that perfection, she panicked. That doesn't excuse what she did. No, it doesn't. But it explains it. And maybe that's worth considering." She stood up. "I'm not asking you to forgive her. I'm asking you to think about whether this revenge is worth losing your daughter forever, because that's where this is headed." After she left, I sat alone in the office, thought about Sarah, about the way she'd always said family was everything, how she'd made me promise to take care of the kids after she was gone. I'd kept that promise for years, provided for them, supported them, loved them, and when they'd pushed me away, I'd struck back. Hard, maybe too hard. That night, I couldn't sleep, kept thinking about Margaret's words, about Frank's warning, about the look in Emily's eyes at the wedding when she'd told me to leave. Around 2 a.m, I got dressed and drove to Jake's condo. The lights were on. I parked across the street, watching. Through the windows, I could see Jake pacing, Amanda sitting on the couch, head in her hands. They looked broken. I sat there for an hour, debating whether to go up. Finally, I drove home without knocking. The next morning, I called Bill Morrison. "Bill, that Innovate Tech contract. Is there any way to walk back the investigation?" "Richard, the decision's already made. Company fired Jake to save face. It's done." "I know, but could you make it clear that the issue was with his references, not his actual work? That it was a paperwork problem, not a competency problem?" "I could probably manage that. Why?" "Because I'm trying to give him a way back." "You sure about this?" "No, but do it anyway." I hung up and dialed Patricia Hammond. "Patricia, this is Richard Dunn." "Richard, I wasn't expecting to hear from you. I need to ask a favor. What I told you about Emily was true, but I may have been too harsh in how I presented it. She's young. She made a mistake." "A significant mistake?" "Yes, but she's talented. You said so yourself. Is there any chance you'd consider giving her another opportunity?" "Why would you ask that after what she did?" "Because she's my daughter, and no matter how angry I am, I don't want to see her destroy her career over one stupid lie." Patricia was quiet. "I'll think about it, but I'm not making any promises." "That's all I'm asking." The next call was harder. I unblocked Emily's number, dialed. She answered on the 4th ring. "Dad?" Emily, I need to talk to you. Can you meet me at the shop tomorrow afternoon? Yes. What time? 3:00. Okay, Dad, Tomorrow, Emily. We'll talk tomorrow. I hung up before she could say more, sat there feeling my hands shake. This was it. The moment where I either let go of the anger or let it consume everything. Emily arrived at 2:50. She looked thinner, worn down, dark circles under her eyes. She stood in the doorway of the shop like she was afraid to come in. Hi, Dad. Emily, come in. She walked slowly through the garage bay, looking around. I haven't been here in years. I know. We went to the office. I gestured to a chair, but she remained standing. Dad, I'm so sorry. For everything. I was wrong. Yes, you were. I don't know what else to say. I messed up. I let my insecurities control me, and I hurt you. And I understand if you can't forgive me. I looked at her. Really looked at her. Saw Sarah's eyes staring back at me. Saw the little girl who used to help me in the shop, handing me tools and asking questions about how engines worked. Emily, do you remember when you were 10 and you helped me rebuild Mrs. Patterson's station wagon? She blinked, surprised. Yeah, you let me remove the spark plugs. You were so proud of yourself, came home with grease all over your hands and face. Your mum laughed for 10 minutes straight. I remember. That's who you were. Curious, genuine, unafraid to get dirty. Somewhere along the way you lost that. Started caring more about what other people thought than about who you actually were. Tears welled in her eyes. I know. I'm not blameless here. I pushed back too hard. What I did to you and Jake, it was legal, but it was cruel. I wanted you to hurt the way I was hurting. We deserved it. Maybe. But it doesn't matter now. What matters is whether we can find a way forward. Can we? I stood up. I don't know, Emily, I really don't. But I'm willing to try if you are. She started crying then, really crying. I stood there awkwardly, not sure what to do. Finally, I walked around the desk and hugged her. She felt small in my arms, fragile in a way I'd never noticed before. I'm so sorry, Daddy. I'm so sorry. I know, me too. We stood like that for a long time. Jake was harder. He didn't want to meet, didn't want to talk. Amanda called me instead. Mr. Dunn, Jake's not ready to see you yet. He's still too angry. I understand. But I want you to know what you said to my father about Jake needing to learn hard lessons. He told me about it. And you were right. We've been protecting him, shielding him from failure. It hasn't done him any favors. That's generous of you to say. I'm not being generous. I'm being honest. Jake needs to figure out who he is without the safety nets. And part of that means dealing with you. When he's ready, I'm here. I'll tell him. 3 weeks later, Jake showed up at the shop, unannounced, unexpected. I was under a car when Tony told me someone was there to see me. I rolled out, saw Jake standing there in jeans and a sweater. No suit, no armor. Hey, Dad. Jake, can we talk? We went to the same diner where Sarah and I used to go on Friday nights. Sat in the same booth we'd sat in 1,000 times. The waitress, Carol, remembered me. Richard, haven't seen you in ages. Who's this handsome young man? My son, Jake. Her face lit up. Little Jakey, my goodness, you've grown up. How's Emily? She's good, Carol. Thanks for asking. We ordered coffee, waited until Carol left before speaking. Jake stared at his cup. I lost everything, Dad. My job, my confidence, Amanda's respect. I've been applying everywhere, but word's gotten around. People think I'm a fraud. Are you? He looked up. What? Are you a fraud? Did you lie on your resume? I exaggerated, made things sound better than they were. Everyone does it. That's not an answer. He slumped back. Yeah, I lied. I took credit for projects I barely worked on. claimed experience I didn't have. And when it all came crashing down, I blamed you instead of taking responsibility. Why'd you do it? Because I wanted to be successful, like Amanda's dad, like all the people we grew up around who made it look easy. I thought if I could just get in the door, I'd figure it out. And did you? No, I was drowning, Dad. Every day, pretending I knew what I was doing. Terrified someone would realize I didn't belong there. I sipped my coffee. You know what your mother used to say. Fake it till you make it only works if you're actually trying to make it. You weren't trying to learn. You were trying to survive. I know that now. So what are you going to do about it? He met my eyes. I don't know. That's why I'm here. I need help. Not money, not connections. Just guidance. From someone who actually built something real. You want to work at the shop? If you'll have me. I know it's not glamorous. I know Amanda's dad will probably judge me for it. But I need to start over. Learn how to actually work. Earn something honestly. I studied him. Saw the sincerity there. Also saw the fear. Jake was terrified I'd say no. You'll start at minimum wage. Do whatever Tony tells you. Sweep floors, change oil, learn the basics. No special treatment because you're my son. I understand. And you'll apologize to Bill Morrison, face to face. Take responsibility for what you did. Okay. One more thing. You're going to fix your marriage. Amanda's a good woman. She deserves better than a husband who's too proud to admit when he's wrong. I'm working on it. I reached across the table, offered my hand. He took it. Monday morning, 7 a.m. Don't be late. I won't be. Jake showed up Monday at 6:45, eager, nervous. Tony looked at me questioningly and I nodded. We put Jake to work doing the jobs nobody wanted, cleaning the bathroom, organizing the tool benches, taking out trash. He didn't complain. By the end of the first week, his hands were rough and dirty. He'd lost the softness that came from sitting at a desk all day. Tony started teaching him basic repairs, how to change brake pads, how to rotate tires. Simple stuff, but Jake approached it like he was learning rocket science. You're being too gentle, Tony told him during an oil change. You need to really torque that filter. Don't be afraid to use force. Jake adjusted his grip, tried again. Got it right. Smiled like he'd just won the lottery. Emily came by the shop on Fridays. She'd taken a job at a smaller marketing firm, less prestigious but honest work. Patricia Hammond had eventually given her another chance, but on probation. One mistake, and she was done. How's it going? I asked her one evening as we closed up. Hard. I'm basically starting over. But it's okay. I'm learning things I should have learned years ago, like how to admit when I'm wrong, how to ask for help. That's good. Dad, can I ask you something? Sure. Do you think Mum would be disappointed in us, in how we turned out? I thought about that. I think your mum would be disappointed in how you treated me, but I think she'd be proud of how you're trying to fix it. Do you think we'll ever be okay again? As a family? I don't know, Emily. We're trying. That's all we can do. She nodded. That's enough for now. Thanksgiving came. For the first time in 5 years, both kids came to the house. Amanda and Michael, too. We cooked together, crammed into the small kitchen, bumping into each other and laughing. Jake burned the rolls. Emily oversalted the potatoes. Amanda saved the turkey at the last minute. Michael made surprisingly good stuffing. It was chaotic and imperfect, and felt more real than any holiday we'd had in years. After dinner, we sat in the living room. The same room where Sarah and I had brought the kids home from the hospital, where we'd celebrated birthdays and Christmases, where we'd held each other and cried when the cancer diagnosis came. I want to say something, Jake announced. Everyone turned to look at him. I want to thank Dad for not giving up on us even when we gave up on him, for teaching us what it actually means to work for something, and for showing us that success isn't about money or status. It's about integrity. "Hear, hear," Michael said. Emily raised her glass. "To Dad, the toughest, most stubborn, most loving man I know." "To Dad," they echoed. I felt something in my chest loosen, something that had been tight and hard for months. "To your mother," I said, "who would have kicked all our butts for letting things get this bad." We laughed, drank, started telling stories about Sarah, about the time she'd tried to help me rebuild an engine and ended up covered in oil, about her terrible cooking when we first got married, about how she'd insisted on driving the kids to school every day in our beat-up station wagon, even though they begged her to let them take the bus. "She was so embarrassing," Emily said, smiling through tears. "But she didn't care. She just wanted to spend time with us." "Like father, like mother," Jake said, looking at me. "Yeah," I agreed. "Like father, like mother." December brought changes. Jake found an apartment he could actually afford, a modest place without the fancy amenities of the condo. Amanda's father had cut them off financially, but Amanda was working now, contributing. They were building something together without the safety net. Emily and Michael rented a small house. Nothing like the suburban mansion they'd dreamed of, but it was theirs. Michael had stood up to his parents, told them he loved Emily and wasn't going anywhere. They'd backed off, grudgingly accepted that their son was going to make his own choices. The shop was doing well. Jake was learning fast, showing real aptitude for the work. Tony was impressed, which meant something because Tony didn't impress easily. "Your kid's got good hands," he told me. "Natural mechanic. Just needed the right teacher." "Don't let him hear you say that. His head's big enough already." Tony laughed. "He's humble now. You beat that into him good." "I didn't beat anything into him. Life did that." "Yeah, but you helped life along." "Fair point." One evening, Jake and I were working late on a difficult transmission rebuild, the kind of job that required patience and precision. We worked in comfortable silence, passing tools back and forth. "Dad?" "Yeah?" "I'm sorry. For everything. For being ashamed of you. For thinking money and status mattered more than character. For pushing you away when you were just trying to be there for us." I set down the wrench. "Jake, I'm sorry too. For not seeing how much pressure you were under. For pushing back so hard when you made mistakes. For forgetting that you were still learning. We both messed up. Yeah, but we're fixing it." He smiled. "Like this transmission. Exactly like this transmission. Tear it down, figure out what's broken, rebuild it better." We went back to work. Hours later, when the transmission was finally purring smoothly, we stood back and admired our work. "That's good work," I said. "Thanks. Couldn't have done it without you." "You could have. Just would have taken longer." He looked at me. "Dad, I want to buy into the shop, become a partner, if you'll let me." "Where would you get the money?" "I've been saving. Amanda and I have been cutting expenses, living on less. I've got enough for a small percentage, and I'll earn the rest over time." I considered it. "This isn't some project you'll get bored with in 6 months. No, this is what I want. Real work. Building something that lasts. Like you did." "Then we'll talk to a lawyer. Draw up papers. Do it right." He stuck out his hand. "Partners?" I shook it. Partners. Christmas Eve, we gathered at the house again, this time with decorations Sarah had carefully preserved in boxes in the attic. Emily and Jake strung them up, arguing about where each ornament should go, just like they had when they were kids. The tree was small, crooked, perfect. Nothing like the designer trees in their old lives. But it was ours. We exchanged modest gifts, practical things. Jake gave me new work gloves. I gave him a toolbox that had belonged to Sarah's father. Emily gave me a framed photo of Sarah that I'd forgotten existed. Her smile was radiant, full of life. "Where did you find this?" I asked. "Mum's old photo albums. I've been going through them, remembering things." She'd like that. I think she'd like a lot of things right now. Seeing us all together. Seeing Jake covered in grease. Seeing me actually happy instead of pretending. "Your mother always knew when you were pretending." "I know. I wish I'd been honest with her. Told her I was scared of not being good enough." "She knew that too, Emily. And she loved you anyway." Amanda spoke up. "I have something to say." Everyone turned. She looked at Jake. "We're pregnant." The room exploded. Hugs and congratulations and tears. Jake looked stunned, happy, terrified all at once. "A baby," he said. "We're having a baby." "Yes, genius. That's generally what pregnant means." Amanda was laughing and crying simultaneously. Emily hugged her. "Congratulations! Oh my God, I'm going to be an aunt." I stood back, watching, feeling something warm spread through my chest. Sarah's grandchild, a new generation, a chance to do better. Jake came over to me. "Dad, I want to do this right. Be a good father, like you were, before we screwed everything up. You'll figure it out. Will you help? Teach me?" "Jake, I'm not exactly Father of the Year material." "Yes, you are. You never gave up on us, even when you should have. Even when we pushed you away. That's what I want to be, the kind of dad who doesn't give up." I pulled him into a hug. "You'll be great, son. You and Amanda both." January brought cold weather and new beginnings. Jake was a natural with customers, had a way of explaining repairs that made people trust him. The shop's reputation grew. Word spread that Dunn's Auto Repair was honest, reliable, family-owned. Emily's career was rebuilding too. She'd landed several new clients through hard work and referrals. Patricia Hammond had become a mentor, teaching her the difference between image and substance. "Patricia told me something interesting," Emily said one Friday evening. "She said the best marketers don't create false images. They help clients discover their true value and communicate it honestly." "Smart woman." "She is, and she said she learned it from watching you." "Me?" "Yeah. She said you never pretended to be something you weren't. You just did good work and let that speak for itself. That's real marketing." I thought about that. Your mother used to say the same thing. Let your work speak louder than your words. She was smart too, the smartest. Late January, I got a call from Frank Bishop, the private investigator. "Richard, I wanted to update you." "On what?" "Remember I said I was hired to investigate you? Well, I did my investigation, wrote my report. And I told your kids the truth, that you're a good man who got hurt and responded in a very human way, that what you did was harsh but understandable, and that they were lucky to have a father who cared enough to teach them a lesson." "What did they say?" "Jake thanked me. Emily cried. Then they paid my bill and told me to destroy the report. Said they didn't need documentation of their mistakes. That's mature of them. They're growing up. Finally. You did that." After he hung up, I sat in the office thinking about the past year. The wedding. The betrayal. The revenge. The reconciliation. All of it leading to this moment of quiet peace. Tony knocked on the door. "Boss, Jake's asking if you want to grab dinner. Says Amanda's cooking and there's plenty. Tell him yeah, I'll be there." Spring arrived with new growth. The shop was thriving. Jake had officially bought in, his name now on the sign, Dunn & Son Auto Repair. He'd earned it through sweat and dedication. Emily announced she was starting her own marketing firm. Small, ethical, focused on helping businesses communicate their authentic value. Michael was supporting her fully, even took a pay cut at his own job to help fund the startup. "I'm terrified," she admitted over coffee one morning. "Good. Fear means you care. Did you feel this way when you started the shop?" Every single day for the first 5 years. How'd you get through it? Your mother, she believed in me even when I didn't believe in myself. That made all the difference. I wish she was here. Me too. We sat quietly for a moment. Dad, can I ask you something? Do you forgive us? Really? I looked at my daughter, saw the woman she'd become, stronger, humbler, more real than the person who'd told me not to come to her wedding. Emily, I forgave you months ago. The question is whether you've forgiven yourself. I'm working on it. That's all any of us can do. June brought the baby. Jake and Amanda named him Richard, after me and after Amanda's grandfather. Little Richie, they called him. He had Sarah's eyes. I held him in the hospital, this tiny, perfect thing, and felt the years fall away. All the anger, all the hurt, all the mistakes. None of it mattered now. What mattered was this new life, this fresh start. He's beautiful, I told Jake. Thanks, Dad. We hope he grows up to be like you. Honest, hardworking, loyal. I hope he grows up to be better than all of us. Amanda smiled. That's the goal. Emily and Michael came to visit, brought gifts and flowers and stayed for hours. We took turns holding Richie, marveling at his tiny fingers and ridiculous hair that stuck straight up. You're going to be a great grandpa, Emily said. I'm already a great grandpa. Modest, too. I learned from the best. That evening, after everyone left, I drove to the cemetery. Hadn't been there in months. Sarah's grave was well maintained, flowers from Jake and Emily still fresh in the vase. I sat on the bench nearby, watched the sun set. Hey, Sarah. It's been a rough year. The kids and I went through hell. But we made it. They made it. And today I held our grandson, little Richie. He's perfect. Just like you. The wind rustled through the trees. I think you'd be proud of them. They messed up bad, but they owned it, tried to fix it. That's all we can ask, right? No answer. Just the wind. I miss you every day. But I'm okay now. We're all okay. The family's back together. Different than before, but stronger. Real. No more pretending. I stood up, touched the headstone. I kept my promise. I took care of them. Even when it was hard. Even when I wanted to give up. I took care of our kids. Walking back to the truck, I felt lighter. August marked 1 year since the wedding. We didn't celebrate it, but we acknowledged it. Jake brought it up at Sunday dinner. Can you believe it's been a year? Feels like a lifetime ago. Feels like yesterday, Emily said. Both true. I passed the potatoes. A lot can change in a year. Everything changed, Amanda said, bouncing Richie on her lap. And I think it's for the better. Michael nodded. Agreed. That disaster of a wedding led to all this. New jobs, new perspective, new family dynamics. Silver lining. Some silver lining, Emily muttered. I lost my job, my reputation, and my sanity. And gained humility, self-awareness, and an actual relationship with your father, Jake countered. Fair point. I looked around the table. My family, imperfect, flawed, real. Exactly what Sarah would have wanted. I want to say something, I announced. Everyone quieted. I'm proud of you, all of you. This year tested us in ways I never expected. We could have let it destroy us. Instead, we let it rebuild us. That takes courage. You gave us that courage, Dad, Jake said, by not letting us off the hook, by making us face consequences. By loving us even when we didn't deserve it, Emily added. You always deserved it. You just needed to remember that. We finished dinner in comfortable conversation. Afterward, Jake and I did the dishes, while Emily and Amanda played with Richie. Michael fell asleep on the couch, exhausted from a long work week. This is good, Jake said, washing plates. This is what family should be. Yeah. Dad, I never thanked you properly, for giving me a second chance, for teaching me how to actually work, for not giving up on me. You don't need to thank me. Yes, I do, because I gave you every reason to walk away, and you didn't. I dried a plate, set it carefully on the rack. Jake, you're my son. Walking away was never an option. Teaching you a hard lesson, that was necessary. But abandoning you? Never. I'm going to remember that. When Richie screws up, when he disappoints me, I'm going to remember that love means staying even when it's hard. Then I did my job. We finished the dishes in silence. Outside, the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. Fall arrived with cooler weather and harvest colours. The shop was busier than ever. Jake hired another mechanic, young kid named Luis, who reminded me of Jake a year ago. Eager, willing to learn, not afraid of hard work. Emily's firm landed its first major client, a non-profit that needed help with a fundraising campaign. She threw herself into it, working late nights, determined to prove herself. Michael supported her completely, taking on more household duties so she could focus. I'm learning so much, she told me over lunch one day, about marketing, about people, about myself. This is what I should have been doing all along. Sometimes we need to take the wrong path before we find the right one. Very philosophical, Dad. Your mother used to say that. I know. I remember. We ate in comfortable silence for a moment. Dad, can I tell you something? Always. I talk to Mum sometimes, at her grave. I tell her about the business, about Michael, about you and Jake. I think she hears me. I think she does too. Do you talk to her? Every day. What do you tell her? That I'm doing my best, that the kids are okay, that I miss her. Emily reached across the table, squeezed my hand. She knows, Dad. She knows. Winter came early that year. Snow in November, bitter cold by December. But the shop stayed warm, busy with customers needing winter maintenance. Jake was in his element, managing schedules, handling difficult customers, teaching Luis the ropes. You're a natural at this, Tony told him. Better at the business side than your old man. Don't tell him that, he'll get cocky. But I'd overheard, and I was proud. Jake had found his calling, not in some fancy office pretending to be something he wasn't, but here in the shop, doing honest work with his hands. Christmas was perfect. Simple gifts, home-cooked meal, everyone together. Richie was 6 months old, starting to notice the lights and decorations. He giggled when Jake jiggled ornaments, making them reflect the coloured lights. He's going to be spoiled rotten, Amanda warned. That's what grandpas are for, I said, making faces at him. Emily took photos, lots of photos. For Mum, she explained, so she can see how we turned out. She can see, I said. Trust me. After everyone left, I sat alone in the living room looking at the tree. This time last year, I'd been planning revenge, nursing wounds, preparing to teach my children a lesson they'd never forget. And I had. But I'd learned something too. That anger is easy, forgiveness is hard, and love is the hardest work of all. But it's worth it. Every difficult moment, every painful conversation, every step toward reconciliation. Worth it. The new year brought unexpected news. Richard Hartley, Amanda's father, called me. Richard, I owe you an apology. For what? For not stepping in sooner, for letting Amanda and Jake build their life on a foundation of money and privilege. You did what I should have done, taught them the value of hard work. They taught themselves. I just gave them the opportunity. Don't be modest. You could have let them fail completely. Instead, you gave Jake a place to rebuild. That takes character. He's my son. Exactly. And that means something. I'm calling because I want to help. Not with money, with connections. I know people who need good, honest mechanics. I'd like to send them your way. That's generous. It's fair. You helped my daughter and son-in-law find their footing. The least I can do is help your business grow. True to his word, Hartley sent customers our way. Quality clients who paid on time and appreciated good work. The shop expanded. We hired 2 more mechanics, upgraded equipment, added services. Jake was thriving. He'd found his confidence, but the healthy kind built on actual competence rather than pretense. "Dad, I've been thinking," he said one evening as we closed up. "Maybe we should open a second location." "You trying to turn this into an empire?" "No, but there's a need, and we could do it right. Family-owned, honest service. Expand the legacy. Let's master this location first, then we'll talk about expansion." He grinned. Fair enough. Spring brought new life again. Emily was pregnant. She announced it at Sunday dinner, glowing and nervous. "Another grandchild!" Amanda squealed. "Richie's going to have a cousin!" Michael looked stunned and happy. We weren't planning this yet, but life had other ideas. "Best kind of surprise," I said. "Congratulations." Emily hugged me. "Thanks, Dad. I'm terrified." "You'll be great." "How do you know?" "Because you learned from your mistakes. Because you're not pretending anymore. Because you're ready to be real with a kid. Show them who you actually are." "What if who I actually am isn't good enough?" "Emily, you've spent the last 1.5 years rebuilding yourself. You started an honest business, repaired your marriage, reconnected with family. If that's not good enough, I don't know what is." She started crying. Happy tears this time. "I love you, Dad." "I love you too, kiddo." That night, driving home, I thought about Sarah, about how she would have reacted to the news. The joy, the planning, the endless shopping for baby things. I missed her with an ache that never quite went away. But I also felt her presence, in Emily's smile, in Jake's work ethic, in the way both my kids had chosen to fight for their families instead of running away when things got hard. Sarah was still teaching us, even now. Epilogue. 2 years after the wedding, I stood in the shop watching Jake work on a complex engine repair. He moved with confidence, making decisions quickly, explaining things to Luis with patience and clarity. My son, the businessman who'd lost everything and found himself. The mechanic who'd discovered his true calling. The father who was raising his son with honesty and love. Emily stopped by that afternoon, her daughter sleeping in a carrier on her chest. Little Sarah, named after her grandmother, 8 months old with dark hair and a curious expression. "How's business?" I asked. "Good, really good. We just landed the hospital's account. Major campaign for their new wing." "That's fantastic." "Thanks. It feels right, you know, doing work that matters, helping people tell their real stories. Your mother would be proud." "I hope so." She adjusted the baby carrier. "Dad, can I ask you something?" "Sure. Do you regret it? What you did after the wedding? The revenge?" I thought about that. I regret how much pain it caused, but I don't regret teaching you both that actions have consequences. Sometimes love means letting people fall so they learn to stand on their own. "That's what I thought." She smiled. "I'm going to remember that. When Sarah's older and she screws up, because she will. All kids do. And you'll be there to catch her after she falls." "Exactly." Jake came over, wiping grease from his hands. "Family meeting in the shop? This official?" "Just visiting," Emily said. "Good, because I've got 3 more cars to finish before closing." "I'll let you work." Emily hugged me. "Thanks, Dad, for everything. Thank you, both of you, for giving me another chance." "You gave us the chance," Jake corrected. "We just finally took it." They left together, bickering about something inconsequential. Siblings being siblings. Family being family. I stood in the shop that Sarah and I had built together, watching the sun set through the bay doors. Thought about the journey. The betrayal, the anger, the revenge, the reconciliation, all of it leading here, to this moment of quiet peace. The price of betrayal had been high, nearly destroyed us. But in the end, it had also saved us, forced us to stop pretending, start being real, to choose love even when it was hard, especially when it was hard. I picked up my tools, got back to work. There was an engine that needed rebuilding, a customer who trusted us to do it right. Honest work for an honest living, just like Sarah would have wanted, just like it should be.